Okay, everybody, I am very happy because I want to start for discussion and to be a present about really material and then to my friend Mrs. Shirley Arwinda and Mr. Rakasatya Hilmawan Faiz Haq will be presented about the Creswell chapter 2, 3, and 4. This is chapter me and identifying the problem, the research problem. Okay, let's get started. The presentation about the identifying of research problem. Next. Okay, and next we are going consist about identifying a research problem by John W. Creswell. To identify a problem in the research. For the key concepts is what is the research problem and why is important. Where do you find the problem? How can you distinguish it from the other parts? Can and should the problem be researched? How does the problem differ for quantitative and qualitative research? What are the 5 elements that comprise the statement of the problem section? How do you write this section into your research? What is the research problem? The research problem is an educational issue for the concern that an investigator present and justify in a research study. Research problem issues it's more concerns that investigators present, and then the research problem is justified in research study. You have the both of them combined to be research a problem. The next, why is the research problem important? Point 1 is established importance of topic. The minor topic is very important in the research problem. You can find the topic and you can find a minor topic back in for the research in your paper. And then point 1, creates reader interest. Yes. After you find your topic and make the reader interesting on your topic. What is your topic? What is your main idea? And then point 3 is focus reader's attention and how study will add to literature. Point 1, interest is more important, and then make the reader attention and how the study will add to literature about what is the main thing about your topic here. It is a topic is very interesting for any student, and the goal is make the readers focus for the attention on your topic, because this is the goal of the research of problem. Where is the research problem location? Look in the opening paragraph and ask yourself, what is the issue problem? What the researcher want to address? Yeah, at the main topic, maybe at focusing on your study. What is the concern being addressed behind the study? Yeah, It could be being addressed is more concerned about the focus of your topic in a research problem, the why the study undertaken in the first place. Yeah, the main thing, the first step of is choosing the topic, and then why is this study important? Yeah, it's very important because how to make the audience uh, interesting and is excited with your main topic. Next, how does it differ from other parts of the research? Yeah, our research problem is an educational issue or a problem in the study. Yeah, research problem is how to find the educational issue or the problem in the your paper. That's right. Why? Because with the problem you can find and solve the problem instead. With the you finding the main topic to be to point to is a research topic is the board subject matter being addressed in study. Yes, the research topic must be addressed, must be, because in subject matter and main idea, it is to find the research problem combining into educational issues or problem instead. The purpose in the major intent or objective of the study. And then to be continued, in point one is research question. Or question the research would be like answer or address and study answered the questionnaire answered in your paper and etc. Next, it is a difference among topic, problem, purpose, and question. In a general, to be a specific. In a topic, it is about a distance of learning. It is a distance learning and make a space between your audience with the speaker and with the make the material state, and then to be the research problem of lack of the students in the STEM classes. In the classes, all students maybe it is different capacity, yeah, different capacity. Any students can be do that, and then any student will need help of the find the problem instead. And then we use the statement the study why students do not attend distance education classes at the community college. And the research question is, does they use the website technology in this classroom to tell the student from the enrolling in a distance education class? You can find some material with the you can using the technology from the internet and many more. From next, can and should the problem be researched? Yeah. Can you study the problem? Yes, exactly. Do you have access to the research site? Yes. You can find the material with the surfing in the internet. Do you have the time, resources, and skill to carry out of the research? Yes, must be. You can find the surfing in the internet. You collect the data into to be processing of the skill and carrying of the researchers of the main topic. Should you use a study of the problem? Yes, it is main thing and pointing of the solve of the problem. Does it advance knowledge? It is application. Yeah. You can ask for the method. You can ask for the your lecture is can be, and then does it contribute to the participants? Yes. It is have any interaction with the students and the lecturer and the make the paper. Next, how does the researcher problem differ from quantitative and qualitative research? Yeah, quantitative is about accounting for something with a number, yes, formula. You can accumulate about number and number point a point. Yeah. But it differs in for qualitative. Qualitative is about exploring the data. This some table a difference of quantitative and qualitative research. In quantitative, this point one is measure variable. The variable is must be the measure with the data. And point two is assess the impact of this variable on the outcome. And then number three is test theories and broad explanation. And number four is apply result to the large number of people. It's about a number, collecting the data, about a quantitative research. And the qualitative research is point one is learn about the views of the people you plan to study. Yeah. You can't collect the data for a view of the people, interesting the people, the asking, the answering of the people. And point two is as the process over time. Yes, you need time to collect the data. And point three is general theories based of the participant perspective. So many different perspectives of the students of the data. Sure. And then the last one is obtain the detailed information about the few people or research side. Yes, right. The detailed information make implementing the interesting of the data. And then in qualitative is all about the data, collective data with asking for someone, making a questionnaire, and etc. There are different in quantitative research and qualitative research. Next, 5 elements of a problem statement. Love of ideas. Topic is a subject. Yeah, must be confined. Subject area, education issue, and in concern a problem. Evidence for the user. Evidence from the literature. Evidence from the particular, and the difference into evidence. In this body evidence, what is the meaning? What do you know about? And then what remaining the difference you will do for select the audience. The number one is resources, educate. And number two is educator. Number three, policy, the makers. And for in the last one, individuality, like this charity. It must be addressing step 1, step 2, and 3, 4, and 5. Next, what are the some strategies for the writing and statement of the problem section? What is that? Advancing the topic. Yeah, advancing. You can find the topic and then to introduce in the first couple of paragraph. Yeah. Yes. Introducing your topic is the maintaining you in the paper to be explaining, make interesting of the audience. And then now point to it to general subject matter. Yeah. The subject is must be general and to be a specific and needs to be introduced you that reader can relate to the topic here. And then the first sentence of the topic, narrative hook. You know narrative? The narrative hook is performed the following instruction causes the readers to pay attention. Yes, the most important is you get the attention from the audience. And the point 2 is elicits an emotional or attitude response from the readers. And then point 3 is causes the readers to continue to readings after they pay attention. You to get to respond and should continue to the reading on your topic. Next, stating the research problem. Yes, the researchers to be a state in an opening paragraph. What is your background? What is your problem in your research? You can identify and use. Research based research problem, practical problems, and a reference to problem using the literature. Yeah. You can find it on the book. You can find at the article using the literature and to identify of research the problem. Next, justifying the importance of the research problem. Justifying based on what the researchers have found. After the finding is justifying based of the article or of the book, and to be justifying based of personal or workplace experience. Next, identifying deviations in the evidence. What is the evidence? What do we still need to know? Yes, must be. Must be. What's the main thing of the interesting about your main topic and what else do we need to know to improve practice? Yes, practice, practice, and practice. Because practice makes it perfect. Next, identify the audience. Who will profit from reading your study? Yeah. It's you. The other researchers. Yes. Statisticians. Policy makers, special population. You're like the parent, is your teacher, and your family, your friend, and another people who you're reading, you're researching. It is about the audience. Next, how do we write the statement of the problem section? In point one, in one paragraph for each of the 5 elements. Yes, right. Heavily reference this section to the literature. In the literature section, you have to reference to get and at the linking about the material and the resources to provide statistics to support trends. Yeah. After the support, they use quotes from the participant in moderation. Yeah. You can find the reference is that to be some simplified with text from the participant in moderation. Okay, thank you. For the next, my friend will reading and explaining about the Creswell chapter 3 and 4. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Raka, and today I'm going to present my presentation part. So my part is all about the reviewing the literature. In this topic, we're going to aim 3 targets. The first is we know what is a literature review, and the second is why should we make literature review, and the last is going to be how. How do we make the literature review? Dear my friends, from this slide to the end of the slide of mine, I decide to make it into only recorded due to the size of the file is too huge. So let's go ahead to literature review. According to Shuttleworth 2009, literature review is a critical and in-depth evaluation of previous research. And from the book, I got a very easy understanding about literature review, it says that it is a written summary. It can be from books, journals, and other documents, which is talking about the current research, the past state of information on a topic that we're doing the research study. And literature review also organize the literature itself into some subtopics and documents the need for a proposed study. Now let's talk about why we should make literature review. So here we comes with reasons to make. So the reasons that we make literature review is because we want to convince the graduate committee and also to provide evidence to educators that they need our study, because our study is the current study, our study is the newest study that they need to know, and to build our research skills using library and being investigator. And I make a highlight that the reason to make literature review is just to avoiding from duplicating or repeating the previous research had been done and we're doing it again, which is just repeating. There's nothing to improve, there's no foster research. After we know about what is literature review and why we should make literature review, it is now the time to talk about the steps to make. There are 5 steps that we have to know before we make literature review. The first is identify the key terms, and the second is locate literature about a topic. The third will be critically evaluate and select, and the fourth is organize and the literature you have selected, and the last is we just go to write the literature review. So let's go ahead to talk the steps one by one in the next slide. The very first steps to make literature review is by identifying key terms. So basically the idea here is we have to make some keywords, which is like 2 to 3 keywords, which covers our topic and also our research questions. And then we can see in a catalog of terms to find the words, the topics, the ideas that match to our topic, and then we can go to the next step. The next step is locate literature. So the first point here, a sound approach is to begin your search in an academic library. For depth information about searching in an academic library, I'm going to talk about it in the end of the slide. Then use both primary source and secondary. After we got pile of files, pile of literatures from the academic library, we can use both primary source and secondary source of literature. So what are they actually? Primary source literature consists of literature which is originally made by the original writers, so the one who originate the ideas. And secondary source literature is literature that summarize primary source. So secondary source literature got the idea from the primary source of the literature. after we have got the list of literatures, we got a bunch of them, and then next what we need to do is to evaluate and to select. Evaluating and selecting is not really easy way to do. We have to make sure about the goodness and also the relevancy of the literature that we're about to be using it. So if we talk about the goodness, we can see as much as possible on journal articles published in national journals. And this also relates with the previous first point that I'm about to be talking, because the quality of the literature can be seen from where is it from, and we're going to talk about it in the end. And the relevancy of the literature can be checked by seeing the topic, whether the topic relevance and the problem, the questions, the accessibility, also those are relevant to the topic that we're going to work on. After we evaluate and we select, now we have to organize the literature. Organizing here, we got some to do. They're reproducing, downloading, and filling. So we got to get the copies of the article, we can scan it, we can download it, and after that we can go read it. When we're reading it, we got to take notes and determine which one should be used and which one should not be used to our literature. And then after we know them, we need to put them on a literature map. Literature map here is shown in page 96. There are two design that we can use. The first is hierarchical design and circular design. So after we pass those steps, we identify the key terms, we locate literature, we evaluate and select the literatures, and we organize which one should be used and which one should not be used. Then we can go just write the literature. And don't forget that in writing literature, we got to know some things that we got to do. Is the first, use the appropriate style to write complete reference. Some universities or some colleges has their own reference standard, but if you guys are about to put it on into international, you can also use the appropriate international style, which is now being used is APA, and we can keep going on with the newest style that they're using in. And then we can employ also specific writing strategies. Every person has their own writing strategies. So after you have the design, you know what should be used and what should not be used. You can use your strategy to create the literature review you're about to be using to your paper. So dear my friends, here is the last slide that I was talking about. So to know the goodness of the literature that we want to get, to know the quality of that, we can see from these types of sorts. So we have from the low standard quality to the high standard quality. Low standard is usually appear in the first in our first idea, And high standard appears usually from the book. It says that the idea appears more than 10 years after initiation. So what are the low standards and high standard? We have the very lowest standard is early stage material. This type of search is usually using website paper, newsletters, draft of paper for conference presentations. We got a highlight here. We're using the draft of conference presentation. And the higher type of source, we have index publication. We can get the source from conference paper, dissertations, thesis, university publications. And if we jump to the next level, we're going to have journal articles. We can get it from regional to the international one. And then we have books, of course, and the book says that the highest standard source, the best quality of the source is summaries. We can get them like from handbooks, encyclopedias, research reviews, and others. So this is going to be the end of my part. Um, uh, After we know what, why, and how. Thank you guys for listening. I'll continue to the next presenter. Thank you.
Well, hello, I'm Shirley Arwinda. It's time to chapter 4, and it is about how to specify a purpose and research question or hypothesis both in qualitative and quantitative research. Well, the first thing that we can see here is figure 4.1. It shows us how to distinguish among various forms, and I want to highlight about research hypothesis. It is only exists in quantitative research, and the research objectives is typically in a quantitative research only. But if we want to conduct qualitative, it is okay that we have to improve our objectives based on our topic. Okay. And after this, I will try to explain one by one about the purpose statement, research question, research hypothesis, and research objective. So next. The first is about the purpose statement. A statement that advances the overall direction or focus for the study. As we know that the purpose of our study or our research is to solve the problem, means that this purpose have to be clearly stated in the front of our research. The example of purpose statement in quantitative is the purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between use of internet communication between teachers and parents. In a quantitative, we have to establish our research to be in a variables. Here is teachers and parents. But in qualitative, the purpose of this study is to explore parents' stories, blah blah blah, their complication, blah 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 about their study. And easily we can understand the difference between quantitative and qualitative is when qualitative only explore our study in certain topic, but we don't use any variable like in quantitative. The next one is research questions. Research questions may be more than one, maybe more than two. It could be three or four, and it use how, what, and yes no question maybe to parent teacher internet communication like in the example, And then in the qualitative can use what types, or how to, how many, and then how effective, something like that. So in the research question and will determine our types of data to be collected and analyzed or interpreted. The next one is hypothesis. It is because it is only in quantitative research. This uh, is hypotheses are made based on the variable. Researchers advance several hypotheses such as 3 or 4 because it is a possibilities. When we conduct a research, we make a hypothesis first, then doing our research. The example of hypothesis is students in high school in the school district in which parents and teachers communicate through the internet will have higher grades. It could be not have higher grades or others. Okay, now through research objectives, we will know that the research is used to describe, used to relate, used to identify, and the objectives here based on our goals that the investigator plans to achieve in the research or in the study, because the objectives are sometimes be break down from the topic and become subtopics and relates to some variables also. So research objectives is important to be stated in our research. Now it's time for me to explain how to design quantitative purpose statements, research questions, and hypotheses. The first is we have to specify the variables. Variables is characteristic or attribute of an individual or an organization researchers can measure or can observe, and it is vary among the individuals or organizations studied, because the example is interval, rating, scale score, and then the vary itself is gender. So there is a picture that shows the family of variables: independent variables, intervening variables, and dependent variables. So in the independent variables, there will be control and moderating variables. And we go to the intervening variables, and there is independent variables as an outcome of our study later. Okay, try to identify the variables after this. Okay, what are variables itself? Dependent variables is an attribute that can be influenced by the independent variables. As I said before, it is an outcome, and the example is English score, something that we want to give treatment. For example, the students will got the different English score maybe after the treatment, and independent variable will be their measure, control, treatment, and moderating. And the independent variable after this. Okay, there are 4 types of independent variables. The first is measured variables. The second one is control, treatment, and then moderating. The first one, examples are age of a child, and then the performance on a task, attitudes, and then the second one, is control like variable that cannot be measured actually, but it is natural because maybe this control variable can potentially influences the dependent variable. It is like gender, race, age, socioeconomic level, and then a treatment variable here is can be manipulated by the researcher. For example, when we are giving the group or the students a treatment, so the students will be our treatment variable. And the last one is moderating. It is the secondary interest and combines with another independent variables. And it is like demographic, socioeconomic. Demographic here is it is like the address or the places where the participants live, something like that. Okay, like in the picture, it is about intervening variables that exist between independent and dependent variables. Actually, this variable called mediating variable also, because in some quantitative studies these variables are controlled using statistical procedures that can influence or happens and give effects to the dependent variables. Intervening variables transmit or mediating the effects of the independent. Yeah, something like that. Intervening variables. Okay, and the last one about variables is confounding. This variable cannot be measured by the researcher because, for the example, students at school maybe have some friends from other regions with different race, or maybe different island, different cities, different others that maybe do not have any big effect to the dependent variables, but sometimes it also give effect or influence the independent variables. And the second one, when we have to write our research, we have to write the purpose statement. In the books, there is a sample scripts that we can use to fill and being our purpose statement, of course. The purpose of this study is to test, we mentioned the theory, then by relating, we mentioned the independent variable, and to the dependent variable for the participant, and at the research site. So I like this book because it gives us the script example, and it can help us to fill based on our research or study. And the third, when we want to write our research questions, the first one is we have to pose a question and begin with how, what, or why to be solved in our research. And then we specify our variables like we did before, and use the words like describe, compare, and other relates to our action to the variables. And the last one is indicate the participant. Actually, there are three research questions here. The first is descriptive question, the second is relationship questions, and the third one is comparison. And these three kinds of questions can help us to write, of course. Well, it is about writing quantitative hypothesis. In writing hypotheses, researcher can state a variable first and then compare or make prediction about the changes that we expect from the groups. And it has two types. The first is null hypothesis and the second one is alternate. The null hypothesis mentioned that there is no difference or there is no risk. There's nothing changes. There is no other no between variables. And for the alternative, there are two. The first is directional alternative and the second one is non-directional. The directional alternative here, the researcher predicts the direction of change and specifically mention the difference or the changes. For example, students who has joined English course will have a better English proficiency than student who has not joined any English course, for example. And the second one is non-directional alternative. The researcher doesn't indicate prediction between negative or positive about the variables. For example, there is a difference between X and Y. There is a difference between a student who has joined English course and who has not joined English course. It's time to design qualitative research. In this qualitative, we have only two purpose statements and the research questions without any hypothesis and objectives. Phenomenon in qualitative research. In quantitative, hypotheses are used, but in qualitative, hypotheses are not used because it is only a research question and the research do not test anything, do not compare any groups, and the term variable in quantitative is not used, but the researcher can gather information from a single source or a single group, and it is called a central phenomenon. This central phenomenon is focused on single concept or process, and then it is also understanding or exploring deeply this central phenomenon. In quantitative research, sometimes researchers will test the theories, but in qualitative, the theories are not tested, but they ask the participants in a research to share ideas and to build a general investigation or ideas through the method of collecting data. And then in quantitative research there is an investigator, but we are as researcher will subjectively conduct the qualitative without employ any investigator. And then merging process in qualitative means that the process can be changed in the middle of process because of the feedback or response from the participants, because the research is not based any theories that can be threatened to the groups or to the participants, it means that the qualitative can be changed based on condition. And don't forget, because qualitative is to understand and explore the central phenomenon, not to develop or consensus opinion from the people or from the participant. We only gather information and explore deeply the subject or the object of the study. To write the qualitative purpose statement here, the statement will indicate the intent to explore and understand the central phenomenon, so that we have some guidelines. The first is consider to mention the study as qualitative because the reader or audience may be familiar with the design, and state the central phenomenon we plan to explore deeply, and then use some words that convey about the exploration, like explore, discover, and then understand or describe, because the result will tell us the result, right? And then don't forget to mention the participant, and we can see in the sample script here there is a yellow mark, and we can fill it with the word, like to explore, describe, we see describe. The central phenomenon here is the learning using internet, 5 high school as a participants, and the 6 sign language class is research. For the last one, it is about writing qualitative research questions. Make sure that our questions are open-ended. Our general questions will be answered by our participants, and from the response we can gather information, and then we elaborate the data and make a result as our research letter. And there are two kinds of question here. The first is central. This central question is to open up the research for participants to provide their perspective, and the sub questions will refine the central question into sub-question and then to be addressed in the research. So don't forget to make some questions. It can be 5 or 7 questions, okay, because we need a lot of information from our participants. And then using verbs like generate, discover, understand, describe, or explore, something like that, to make our finding and results fulfill our purpose, of course. And so if you have questions, you can drop to chat or to YouTube comments. Thank you for having us today. See you later in class, and goodbye. Thank you. Bye bye.